truly, I've taught myself to be able to get up and talk in front of people because I look at people that I know and I'm comfortable with, and I kind of bounce around the room. But I'm truly, if there's a party going on, I'm the guy standing in the corner, not talking to somebody that I don't know. So when we get together and maybe I'll say hi because I haven't seen somebody and I just meeting them, I'm not meeting everybody in the room. So that's me. That's all of us. So being an introvert, sometimes this is a little difficult to get up and have a conversation. Do me one favor though. Give me a slide. It might be 2 slides. Did you hit the record button already? Okay. 1 slide, maybe 2 slides. Right here. Do me a favor. Grab your phone. Take a look at that. Give it a zap. Go to my Google form and sign in. There's a couple reasons why I like to do this. One of them is you become part of the group, and I can tell you what we got going. But the second part of it is if I can collect and keep track of how many people come to my meetings, then when I go to somebody and say, hey, I really like what you've got to say, can you come talk to my people and share that? The first question they always ask me is, how many people can you get together? So if I keep a good track of how many people have shown up over the years, and if you signed in last week, please sign, or last month, please sign in again, because I really need to kind of keep track of how many people we've got coming. And here's the other one. Kim, can you count for me? Because I guarantee you there'll be some people that won't sign in, and I'll have 40 people in the room and I'll get 25 people sign in. So that helps me too, to kind of, problem is I lose my notebook if, where I had all those numbers written down. So if you could, I'm going to leave there for a second. If you haven't signed in, please give me a quick second. There you go. All right. Everybody good? We all good? Everybody there? All right, let's go to the next slide. All right, here's some housekeeping. How many first timers tonight? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You guys were new, right? You've been okay. You told me meet up when we asked, right? Over here, who's first time? How'd you find out? Friend, right? You got referral. Your mentor. Thanks, Steve. All right. And how about you? Steve Kelly? Oh, okay. Arena. All right, good. Anybody else? So mentors, meet up. Come on in. All right. So anybody that's been in the business, in the real estate business for any length of time, knows that you can't do real estate without having to deal with contractors. Fair enough. Is that right? I mean, you're going to deal with a contractor sooner or later. If you're an agent, you're helping your clients find contractors to get things fixed before it goes on market. You're going to be looking for contractors to fix the PICRA list. If you're buying whole guy, you're going to need a contractor, all year long, because at any moment, one of your tenants can call you up and say, hey, my toilet's broke, or whatever. If you're fixing flipping, then you're going to need a whole litany of contractors. So one of the things I put together, I don't know if some of you don't know it. Let me go back on my introduction. My name is Stuart. Should have done that earlier, right? My name is Stuart. I retired out of the military, and I decided I wanted to get into real estate. So I had a couple rentals to begin with, and then I started flipping. So I flipped 2 handfuls of houses, and I kept, out of my 4 handfuls of houses, I kept 2 more handfuls of houses as rentals. So I used my flipping to help pay for rental houses that I kept intentionally because I wanted to be an intentional landlord. Um, and got myself, see, I'm trying to make jokes now. I get all sidetracked. Okay. It's good to see you, Pat. We haven't seen Pat in forever, so really glad to see you back. COVID, we used to have a crew before COVID, and COVID slowed a lot of people down, and we're starting to kind of see them come back. So that's good. Welcome back. Um, so where was I? So I keep rentals, and then I flipped some houses. While I was flipping houses, I got a phone call one afternoon from the county that said, um, tell me about this. Tell me about this business you're running in our county without a business license. And I was like, I bought a house, I fixed it up, I sold it. I don't need a business license for that. I'm just, I'm investing in real estate. It's not, it's not a business. I'm investing. And the guy went, no, that's not how it works. When you file your business taxes, what's that? A Schedule C. When you file your Schedule C, um, that means you're running a business. You're in our county. You need to have a business license. And so I'm like, okay, so let's talk about a business license. So I went to the county and I started talking to him about a business license. Well, I don't know how many of you have businesses where you have a business license, but the business license charges you taxes, and the taxes are based on gross sales. So I looked at the guy behind the counter and I said, you're telling me that I'm going to pay taxes on my gross sales because I bought a $300,000 house, sold it for $400,000. You're gonna charge me business license taxes on $400,000. He said, I sure am. I was like, okay. Doesn't sound fair because I didn't make that much. I spent 50 to 60. I sold it $100,000 more. I only put 30 in my pocket, 20 after I paid my realtor. Um, I, I was dumbfounded. And the guy said, well, you're supposed to have a contractor's license anyways. I'm like, no, I'm doing this work for myself. I'm not doing it for other people. I'm not out on there doing roofs for somebody so he argued with me, no, you need to have a contractor license. I'm like, no, I don't. Yes, you do. No, I don't. Yes, you do. And then I found out that if you have a contractor's license, your tax per $100, let's just say you own a salon, a hair salon, and you do $50,000 worth of business a year. Your business license tax is 2% of $100,000. I don't know what the number is. I have to look it up. But it's pretty high. And if you do it for $400,000 to $500,000, the tax goes, it's crazy. But it's really based on the type of business you're in and the type of business that contractors are in. They know you're selling big items, so the tax rate is not that high. So for me to go get a contractor's license, really offset my business license tax enough to get the license. Plus, it made me legal to do a couple of little things. But that's how I ended up with a contractor's license. I didn't want to run out and start building houses for people. I didn't want to, and you truly don't need to have a contractor's license to flip houses. If you get transferable warranties from all your licensed contractors when you're doing the work, and you sell a house to your end buyer along with those warranties. What the state doesn't want are those people, the fly-by-night flippers that we were talking about earlier, that don't stand behind their work. So they encourage you to have a contractor's license to flip houses, but it's not required. We actually had the D4 guy here who explained that to us. My advice to you, if you're thinking about flipping houses, is have a conversation with the depot to make sure that you're doing it right, so that nobody and do your work correctly. Make sure all your houses have transferable warranties to the end buyer. And by transferable warranty, I mean, about a year warranty on any work that you've done. Okay, so now maybe I'll get into we're 20 minutes into it and we haven't even started the talk. I got 20 slides, so it could take a while, and I probably should have broke this down into a couple different segments, but go ahead. Okay, so when you're working with in the real estate world, we're repairing, we're renovating, and we're building. Contractors can make or break your project. Almost any flip that goes bad, it's one of two reasons. The first one is you paid too much for the property, and the second one is you paid too much to have it fixed. And part of paying too much to have it fixed is getting the wrong contractors, not having the right agreements in place, and not understanding how the contracting world works. Take too long, you lose money, they overcharge you, they do crappy work, don't pay, you don't want to pay twice for something. I had a house one time, I partnered up with somebody, I wasn't the lead, I was supposed to be the quiet partner in the background who got a little more vocal when the contractor this person hired was doing things like ripping the shingles off the house and then leaving the house with tar paper for 3 weeks during 4 rainstorms and a snowstorm, and we had a bad contractor. And there's things you can do to protect yourself. The first one is hire professionals. Always hire professionals. If you've been to Robin Thompson, she calls them professional grown-up adults. So always hire grown-up adults. Verify their license, verify their insurance, check for claims on them, get a written contract. And then the other one is make sure you have good insurance. You have insurance on your side, you want to check the insurance on their side also. Next slide. When you're flipping a house, there's 3 ways to get it done, or actually flipping any sort of repair work on a house. There's 3 ways to get it done. You can hire a general contractor, you can do it yourself, or you can manage it yourself. I would never recommend anyone do it themselves because there's just too much stuff. There's too much stuff. It takes too long to do it yourself. I will tell you that is my one of my downfalls. I end up doing things too much myself, just because sometimes I feel like, oh, I can get it done faster instead of waiting to get on this guy's schedule. I just saw the problem. I'm not waiting 2 months or 2 weeks to get on this guy's schedule. I'm going to do it myself. Well, as I'm doing it myself, I'm dropping other balls that are kind of going slow. So my recommendation is whenever you've got a big project, until you get experience, always hire a general contractor who knows how to schedule the trades in the way that they need to come to the project. All right, next slide. I'm going to look at it this way. That way I don't have to keep looking backwards. Okay, general contractor. What is a general contractor? A general contractor is a guy with a contractor's license. And his contractor's license will be something like an RBC, residential building contractor. You can have different types. We'll talk about this earlier or later, but you can have different types. But your residential building contractor is not your roof. He actually is your roofing contractor. He's not your electrician. He's not your plumber. He's a guy he's experienced with all facets of trades in your house. He can organize how those things work and how they fit together throughout the construction process. You'll consult him on the plan. He'll give you advice on planning, time, cost, effort, budget, timetables. He pulls the permits for you. He manages the inspections. He manages the subs. So he's the guy that calls in your subcontractors and makes sure they're coming in on the right time and make sure that they're they're in the correct order so that your painter's not messing up the flooring guy's work because the painter came after the flooring guy, which, it happens. And then if your painter doesn't put enough tarps down, he's complaining because he thought he was going to be able to slop paint everywhere, and now it's all over your brand new floors. He hires and manages all trades. The big one is he manages risk and he solves the problems for you. Next one. Okay, so where do you find your contractors? My biggest way to find contractors is to ask the people that I know. Philip in the back has been a great big help to me because I know he's working with contractors all the time, and he gives me great advice on guys that are doing quality work on time and at reasonable prices. You can get them off of Craigslist, Angie's List, and advertisements. But the best way to get it is through networking. I know people that go to Lowe's and Home Depot in the morning. Now, the key is go early in the morning because those are the guys that are working hard. The ones that are up and they're at Lowe's or Home Depot and they're buying their stuff at 7 in the morning. You don't want to go and find the guy at 10 in the morning buying stuff at Lowe's and Home Depot, wiping the sleep out of his eyes. You'll probably find me there at that time, but you're not going to find your good contractors at that time. The other one, networking, your REIAs, your lenders, your realtors, the realtors that have been working with your PICRAs and all that, and then your friends. So referrals from past satisfied clients, that's the best way to get somebody, to find your best contractor. So I would tell you that if you're looking for a contractor, come up on the Facebook page and ask. When you do that, beware of the guy that says, I'll do it, I'll do it, I'll do it. Look at me, look at me. Look for the guy that's going, pick him, go to that guy, go to that guy. Because those are referrals as opposed to somebody who's, trying to sell himself. Most good contractors are not on Facebook saying, pick me, pick me. They're too busy for that. They're not running around looking for it because their phones are ringing all the time anyways. All right, next one, please. Okay, so qualifying contractors, we already said friends and reference or friends, but you could also ask for referrals. Just say, hey, who have you worked for? Tell me, is there a house that you've done a roof on? Show me, let me see what kind of work you're doing. And a good contractor will be able to give you, 4 or 5 phone numbers real quick and say, hey, yeah, here's my last 5 jobs that I did last week. How long have they been in the business? If the guy, if the guy has not been in business very long, I'm not saying he's not a great contractor, but he just doesn't have the experience that the other guys have. Licensed and registered. Okay, so let's go back to my guy that left the roof off the house. After he did that, I had somebody gave me this class. I was at a REIA and someone said, hey, check DPOR. So, you know what? I think I'll do that on this guy. So I went in and I started looking around and I couldn't see his name anywhere. So I finally went and asked him. I said, hey, what kind of do you have a contractor's license? Oh, yeah, I got a contractor's license. I sure do. And so after 3 days of saying, hey, where's your contractor's license? He shows up with a piece of paper from the city saying he's got a business license. I'm like, that's not a contractor's license. Yeah, but it says right here, contractor. I'm like, dude, this is a business license. It's not a contractor's license. So he and I went around till we ended up firing that guy anyways, but it took me a long time to convince my partners that guy was not what he said he was. And another one is make sure that this guy's worked with investors before, because if he's worked with investors, then he'll know the difference between what we're as investors are looking for is something that looks good at a reasonable price. We're not looking for something that looks good at an exorbitant price, which a lot of homeowners will do. They'll buy the Gucci just because it's got Gucci written on it. Not that you got a lot of Gucci faucets or anything like that, but they'll buy faucets and things like that just because it's got a fancy name or fancy label on it, as opposed to going and buying American Standard or something like that that looks really good and helps you do a project at a reasonable rate. So, all right, next one. So this is a little slide I put together. At the bottom, I'm not sure if you can see it right here, but this is a contractor's license. This is a business license. So the contractor's license is going to have the board of contractors. It's going to have your class of license, and it'll have your type of license. We'll get into all that here in a minute. Don't let somebody walk in and say, "Yeah, okay, I've got a business license that says contractor on it." Basically, what he is there, he's a handyman, and he can legally do contracting up to $1,000. But don't ask him to do anything more than $1,000, because at that point he's overstepping his bounds. Did I tell you that buyer beware? Kind of just I'm not a lawyer. Yeah, I'm not a lawyer. Do your own due diligence, right? This is all. Virginia's not gonna give me a hard time for putting any of this information out because it's right. And then the other one at the top, whenever you do work with a contractor, the first document you need to get from them before you ever give them their first paycheck is that W-9. Because at the end of the year, your accountant is going to ask you where your W-9s are so that you can do your 1099s. You'll get away from that for a few years of not doing those until the government finds you, and then you'll be in a whole world of mess for not doing your 1099s and W-9s. So get your W-9s from your contractors. Next slide. Okay, what is a contractor? The Department of Professional and Occupational Regulation for Virginia says a contractor is anybody, I'm not going to read the words, but is anybody who does any work on a physical structure for somebody else for money. So he's working on a house that's not his, and he's getting paid for it. That is a contractor. And there's a whole law behind it. Chapter 11 outlines the classes and specialties. Go ahead, the next one. So a contractor's license, I kind of alluded to it a minute ago, has got two parts. You got your class, A, B, or C, and then your unclassed guy. Your unclassed guy, I call him handyman. He can do jobs up to $1,000 before he needs a contractor's license. From $1,000 to $10,000, you can get a Class C license, and you can legally do contracting in the state of Virginia, and your contracts can be anything between $1,000 and $10,000. Now, I've had people come to me and say, well, how about if we break this contract up and I do this, and then I come back and I do this, and then I come and do this? You could do that if there was no intentionality behind it. For example, I own a rental house. In January, I call my contractor up and I ask him to do $9,000 worth of work on my house. He does $9,000. And then in July, I call him up and I ask him to do another $9,000. He would be over the $10,000 with a Class C, but it wasn't really the same contract. But if I ask the same guy to come in and say, okay, I want you to paint the house and I'll pay you, and then write me another contract, and then you can add this addition. You're kind of you're fudging the law there, and you might get away with it, you might not. But honestly, contractors can do a lot because there's nobody really chasing down contractors until somebody does something stupid. The reason you want to work with licensed contractors is Virginia has got a recovery fund. So if a licensed contractor screws you out of a job, doesn't fulfill his promises, there's money that we as licensed contractors pay into up in Virginia that they will step in and make it right. If you're dealing with Joe pickup truck and he's not a licensed contractor, Virginia can't help you. So deal with licensed contractors. I think we'll get to that later. I got a little off track. So a Class C is $1,000 to $10,000, and they cannot do more than $150,000 worth of work a year. A Class B licensed contractor is doing $10,000 to $120,000 projects and cannot do more than $750,000 a year. And a Class A is 120 up and is unlimited. He's your guy that can build a whole neighborhood for you. Yes, sir.
Is the license, once you get it, one and done, or do you have continuing education credits to maintain accreditation?
There are no continuing education requirements right now, but there is, I think a license is good for 2 years. So every 2 years you have to renew it, which is literally just paying your money. It's not, there's no more testing, after that. I think there's been some talk about putting some of that in there, but I haven't seen that come to fruition yet. Now, the other piece that goes into a contractor's license is, so you got your class, now you got your specialty. And the big ones that we'll be looking at generally are residential building contractors, the RBCs. That's the guy that can do everything from the foundation to the roof. He's able to contract for all that. What he can't do physically is those things requiring trade work or tradesman's license, such as the electrical, the plumbing, or the HVAC. But the residential building contractor can do foundation to roof. And again, you've got your electrical contractors. These require tradesman's licenses. Your roofing contractor and your home improvement. The home improvement is almost like an RBC. He just can't do the foundation work, but he can do the windows, the roof, the all the rest of that. And a roofing contractor can only do roofs. Now, the interesting thing is residential building contractor encompasses these two. Residential building contractor basically can do everything that any other contractor can do unless they're required to have a tradesman's license. Next slide. Okay, so that's a lot of words. You don't need to read it. Just realize that your residential building guy can do concrete, he can do home improvement, he can do industrialized building contracting. That is not correct, because that's going to be under your, I think under your commercial guy. I don't know how that got in there, and I have to go back and look. But swimming pools, roofs, painting, masonry, landscape services, he can do it all. Now, if you're a roofing contractor, you can't do all the stuff above it. You can't do the foundation work. You can just do roofing. So when you're hiring a guy and you look at his contractor's license, look to see what kind of trade he specializes in. Next one. So your home improvement contractor, this is what he can do. Notice he doesn't have concrete underneath. I think he can hire the roofs. Okay. There you go. Does not include new construction functions beyond existing, other than decks, patios, driveways, and utility outbuildings that don't require permits. And that's because an outbuilding would need if it was big enough to require a permit, then it would need a foundation, which this guy can't do. So your HIC guy is going to be able to, if you're flipping a house, this guy can probably do it for you, a home improvement guy. Now, if you're flipping a house and you want to add a wing to the house, this is not your guy. You need the RBC guy. So just know that there are different specialties for each license. Next one. Okay, so how do you verify a contractor? I get guys all the time. They go, "Oh yeah, like the guy I was telling you about, that I did the one that he left the roof off the house. I'm a contractor. There's a lot of contractors out there till you look them up on the Virginia Department of Professional Occupational Regulations. There you go. I was like resources. I'm like, that's not it. Regulations. Okay, so there it is, right there, right behind me. I should have just read my own slide. Okay, so it's real simple. It's kind of fun. If you ever want to do it, go to D4, start typing in, look at people with licenses, and look to see what most people are doing really good. But sometimes it's fun to watch what because if some guy screws something up and he gets a fine or he goes to court, it shows up in there, and they're describing what this guy did wrong. So these contractors are, the whole story's out there on some of them and what they're not doing right. All right, so after you've checked the guy out on DPOR, the next thing you want to do is ask him for his contractor's license, ask him for his insurance. And when you ask him for his insurance, don't expect your contractor to go, "Oh, hang on a sec. Yeah. Here's my insurance right here." Because that's not how it works. The good contractor will do it right. Do you have insurance? Yes, I have insurance. They will call their insurance company, and the insurance company will send you a copy of the insurance. And in the bottom of that will be your name, the name of your company that is being recognized. I want to say insured, or I'm blanking out on what it is, but the company recognizes that he's working for you and we're going to insure you. And I'll show you where that is on the document. So the insurance company sends it. What you're looking for is workman's comp insurance and liability insurance. Why do you want workman's comp? Because if one of his guys falls off the roof and that guy starts suing for workman's comp, if his boss doesn't have it, they go to the next guy, and that's you. And if you're a contractor in the state of Virginia, I didn't realize this, but before I got my license, but if you're working in the state of Virginia and you're hiring people, you're required at 2 or more employees, you're required to have workman's comp insurance. Oh, but I'm subcontracting. Those guys aren't my employees. The state of Virginia says if you subcontract somebody, they are your employee. At that point, I said, I think I better go out and get myself some workman's comp insurance. It's not that expensive, but if I make sure that every one of my people that I'm hiring has got workman's comp insurance, then I don't have to pay the premium for them. I've got it. I'm considered insured under their insurance, and I don't pay for that insurance because my insurance company checks theirs and makes sure that it's good, and they don't charge me for it. But it's just peace of mind for me when I'm seeing 5 guys up on one of my roofs running around. The third thing you ask for is your W-9. Give me your W-9, which will give me your company's name, which you should, all these things should match, the company's name and your EIN. So if I'm hiring Joe Blow and Joe Blow walks in and says, "Yeah, I'm Three Brothers Roofing," Okay, good. Three Brothers Roofing. I want to see Three Brothers Roofing contractor's license. I want to see Three Brothers Roofing insurance paperwork. And I want to see Three Brothers Roofing and the tax ID number on their W-9. Once those three things don't start lining up, you got somebody that's trying to skirt around and trying to come under someone else's license. Where that generally happens is my brother's a license. I'm going to work under his contractor's license. Okay. So I'm going to write the check to whoever comes on this W-9. Well, now the W-9 doesn't match the contractor's license because he doesn't want you writing a check to his brother-in-law's company. He wants you writing it to him. Realtors, this is where you get in trouble because I've seen it happen. PICRA report, licensed insured electrician fix such and such. Realtor hires licensed and insured person working for ABC 123 electrician, goes to write the check. They want the check written to Joe Blow. Oh, well, that's, I'm the guy that did the work, write it to Joe Blow. You just now didn't hire ABC 123. You hired Joe Blow, who's not licensed. The second, the buyer or the seller, whoever's on the other side of that deal, is liable to start pitching a fit. I've seen at least one realtor almost lose their license over that because somewhere down the line, Joe Blow ABC 123 check goes to Joe Blow. You did not hire the licensed and insured company. You hired somebody. You hired a jackleg. Is what we call. Okay. Next.
So way to verify somebody has the EIN is valid? Can they make up?
You probably could. I don't know on the EIN, but basically what I'm looking at is, does the contractor's license name Three Brothers Roofing, the insurance Three Brothers Roofing, and the W-9 Three Brothers Roofing? If I have all those three things and the W-9 has got an EIN or a social security number, doesn't matter, because if he's a sole proprietor, it'll be a social. But if I've done all those correctly, then for tax purposes, I've done my due diligence. That guy's the guy that lied to you. So, and as long as you write the check to Three Brothers and not Brother One, then you're going to be okay. But if you write it to Brother One and not Three Brothers, then somebody falls off the roof. You're not covered under insurance. You're not covered with DPOR. All that check that you just did, all those checks that Stu told me, check license, check this, check that. I wrote the check to the wrong person. All that doesn't exist anymore. Okay, so here's the certificate of liability insurance. Up here is going to be the name of the contractor, and down here is the certificate holder. Now, I noticed when I did this, the certificate holder is me and my address. This must have been one that I pulled out from before when I was doing a flip on one of my own properties, or maybe it was even my own house. But your business needs to be in here, not your personal name. So whatever your business. But this is what you will get in an email or in the mail from the brokerage of the insurance company. The insurance broker. It should not be something you get from the truck driver or from the contractor himself that he pulls out of the truck. Because I've known guys go back to the same knucklehead that left the roof off the house. Do you have insurance? Yes, I've got insurance. Okay, can I see your insurance paperwork? I'll have it for you. I'll bring it tomorrow. So he brought it tomorrow, and it was dated that day. So he went in there and got the insurance that morning. And I guarantee you what he did was he went back that afternoon and turned it off. So if your name is down here in the bottom, then the insurance company's got you registered as one of their, somebody they need to notify if the guy turns the insurance off. Beware of a guy that walks in and has the workman's comp insurance that he bought that morning because you asked for it. That's a guy who's not going to have it very long. All right, next one. All right, contracts. There's certain things you need to have in every contract. Now, this is by law, by the state of Virginia. Philip, pay attention. This is a test question. Have a lawyer look at all your contracts that you write. But the state of Virginia requires you to have certain things in your contract. These are the minimum things that you're required to have that a contractor is supposed to put in a contract with you. The project start date and an estimated finish date. Virginia knows that there's things such as rain, storms, snow, drought, COVID. There's things that are going to slow contractors down, but you should be able to give your guy an estimated start and finish date of when you can get a project done. And then the statement of the total cost of the project and a payment schedule. With payment schedules, never get ahead of your payments to your contractor. What do I mean by that? If there's less work in the contract than there is money you owe him, the guy's going to get busy and find other stuff to do. He's not going to come to you because you owe me $500 and there's $2,000 worth of work to do over there. I've got to make $2,000 to pay my crew, and I'm not going to get it from your project because you've already given it to me, and I already spent it on something else. That's just how it works. So never get ahead of your contract. I always recommend never paying more than a third. Never pay more than 2/3 of what the contract is. I don't like to pay anything up front, but there are contractors out there that need something, like a roofer. I want you to do the work for me. I'll give you 10% up front or 25% up front so you can buy the shingles or whatever. But that's between you and it needs to be laid out in a payment schedule how you're going to do that. Always have your payment schedule tied to the completion of something. When the roof's on, I'll give you this. When this inspection is finished, I'll give you this. Don't just say, yeah, every Friday I'll give you something. Because every Friday will roll around, you're going to have to give it to them, and pretty soon you're going to have outpaid. You're going to get your payments ahead of your project. A listing of specified materials. Whatever you're looking for, if you want Sherwin-Williams paint, then you need to specify Sherwin-Williams paint. You need to specify what color. You need to specify everything that you want to have in that project. Contracts can get very detailed and very long because of that page right there. Especially if you haven't worked with a guy a lot, let him know what you want. This plain language expulses. How plain language is that word? Exculpatory clause. Kind of ties into the first one, project start, project end date. Unless there's bad weather, you should be able to put in there, and both of you should agree that the project's going to start within 2 weeks, based on good weather. And then always make sure that you got the clause in here that says the contractor is going to follow local rules for permits and inspections and zoning. You never want to agree with a contractor to skip permits. Would never recommend that. And it needs to be in your contract. All right, what do we got next? Okay, so next slide, because there's some more. What are the cancellation rights? Basically, something that I have seen in contracts. You know, if we're gonna come to agreement that I'm gonna start in 2 weeks. If either one of you goes out and finds out, like the contractor says, starts to do a little more digging into what he was going to do and finds out that he can't do it for the price that he told you that he was going to do it for, then there should be a clause in there for him to say, I haven't done any work. I've got 3 days to back out of this contract, or the buyer's got 3 days to back out of the contract. But at some point in there, what are the cancellation rights of both parties? If there are no cancellation rights, then say that. If you do have cancellation rights, then say it. But the contractor is legally supposed to give you, to tell you if you have it or not. Now, if you're doing work with somebody who's come around knocking on your door, there's a handout that a contractor is supposed to give you that gives you I think it's a week. It's between 3 days and a week. I can't remember exactly what it is, but he can't knock on your door, talk to you about doing your roof, get you to sign a contract, talk you into signing a contract, and then go away and come back the next morning and start working on your house and get it done. You've got 3 to 5 days to back out of that contract for anybody that's knocking on doors. Don't remember exactly. That really wasn't kind of the focus of this slide, but I wouldn't want to work with door knockers anyways, because they're overpriced. 2, they're looking for work. And if they're working for a good company, you're paying, the guy that's knocking on your door a lot of money to knock on your door. So the other one is the contractor's name, address, license number, and class and specialty. If you got a contract that doesn't have that, then you're not dealing with the contractor. You're dealing with Joe Blow. And then anything there should be a statement in your contract that says, hey, this is our contract. We didn't agree to anything else that wasn't in writing. However, we recognize that sometimes projects change. We'll do change orders. So it's written in there that I can't just make up a change on you. Either one of you can't make changes. So next slide. How are we doing time wise? What do we got? 8 o'clock. All right. So we're getting there. I'm seeing some sleepy heads. So everybody get up, do some jumping jacks. That's what they used to do to me in the Army. Everybody get up. Do 50 jumping jacks. All right, now we're gonna get back to work. Okay, so in your written contract, you want a detailed scope of work. And when I say detailed scope of work, if you just say white shaker cabinets, that's not as good as white shaker cabinets made by such and such. Or, I want you to paint my house. All right, so I want you to paint the walls, Sherwin-Williams agreeable gray, Pomar 200 flat sheen, paint trim, Promar 200 white semi-gloss. Those are all the things that when you're talking to your painter, you're talking about. And me and my painter that I work with all the time, I just go paint it because we've worked together enough. It's we've worked together enough. He knows what I want. But if you're working with somebody for the first time, be very clear on what you want. And oh, by the way, if my painter and I have a discussion and we don't have it in writing, then how are we going to sort that out if something ever goes wrong? I know that I've worked with my painter long enough. If we have a disagreement, I just generally, bite the bullet because I like him enough that, all right, I messed up. Go paint the next one down the road. This time, do it this way. So you want your quality, your quantity, any brand names that you want to use, any sizes, etc. You can start getting into some pretty detailed scopes of work. But once you get one scope of work done for a flip, you can kind of pull those scopes of works out. Here's my kitchen. This is what I want. I want these cabinets. I want this paint. I want this countertop. I want this floor. So I got my scope of work. It took me an hour to write it one time, but hey, I want you to do a kitchen for me. This is the scope of work right here. All right. And then you'll go back, okay, well, I don't need but 10 linear feet of cabinets instead of 20 this time. So, all right, here's what it's going to cost you. All right, next slide. All promises in writing. Get several competitive bids. I try to get 3 when I can. Put special instructions in there. Are there dogs? Can you come, have you got the kids home after school? You don't want somebody working at certain times. I don't want you coming before 9. It all needs to be in the contract. Put in here requirement to maintain insurance. You can't cancel your insurance in the middle of my project. All right. The mechanic's lien affidavit. Whenever you pay someone, you need to have them sign a mechanic's lien waiver that says, hey, not only are you paying me for the work that I've done to this point, I'm done. You've paid me. I can't come back on you and say you didn't pay me. And I've paid my subcontractors. I need that document. I need that document from my contractor every time I pay him. I'm paid up to this point, and I've paid all my contractors. Because believe it or not, you can get a subcontractor can put a lien on your house because his boss didn't pay him or didn't pay you. You paid your contractor, but your contractor didn't pay your subcontractor. Now your subcontractor goes down to the city, puts a lien on your house. You can't sell your house. So make sure that this guy's paying this guy. You had a question?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you know this, but where's the contract you guys had originally decided saying I can't did that work? Compensate for taxes.
If you take the contract that you wrote originally and said paid in full, that would work for me. That would work fairly well. But what it doesn't have is I promise you that I paid all my subcontractors.
What if they don't have that to give?
Then you don't pay them. You don't pay them you don't give him that last check. Because I want my contractor, because that general contractor, he's hired an electrician, he's hired a plumber, he's hired a painter, he's hired a roofer, and he's coming to you and he says, I need my last $5,000. Okay, I'll give you the last $5,000, but I need you to sign this document that says that you've done all your work, I've paid you for all your work, and you've paid all your subcontractors. Something else that when he gets the permit, he's required to put on their mechanic's lien agent, which is an agent for whoever owns the property. And that permit goes in the window. That permit's seen by every subcontractor that comes and looks. So if that subcontractor doesn't get paid by the contractor, he knows exactly where to go because he looks at the permit. The permit has a mechanic's lien agent, which is the agent of the owner. Could be the owner, but he knows he goes to that person, says, hey, I didn't get paid. There's a process. I'm not an expert on it because I've never been hit with it. Subcontractor, roofer, I didn't get paid. I didn't get paid. You owe me. You owe me. He doesn't get paid. He's required to go to the mechanic's lien agent. I didn't get paid. I didn't get paid. I think he goes twice. Then he goes to court. And then when they go to court, they put a mechanic's lien on your house. Your house is now clouded on title. You can't sell your house. So it can be a real mess for anybody and everybody involved. So I don't, when your primary contractor says I've paid all my subs, you're kind of taking his word on it. But at that point, you've also got something to go stand on the judge and go, I asked him, he told me he paid everybody. I was not expected to pay him. That guy, my contract was not with the painter. My contract was with him. He owes him. And that's where that goes. And I'm not an expert on that piece, but that's how it's supposed to work. Anybody ever got caught up in that crap? Oh, did you?
I refined my house. I paid cash. And the bill plumber put it in. They had to clear that up.
How'd you clear it?
Well, they called them and they said, oh, yeah, we put the lien on. It took a couple days. The lady just had to sign off.
But
I
who
paid
did?
him.
But he was putting the lien on because he said you didn't pay him?
I guess they do it immediately in Florida.
Oh,
And
okay.
then when it comes time, I don't know how long it sit on there. The refi company called me and said, you got the mechanics lien. I'm like, what? I paid the dumb plumber.
So they put the lien, as soon as you contract them, they put a lien on your house, and then when you pay them, they pull it off.
They're supposed to pull it off. They did.
Okay.
It took them 2 days.
Yeah, see, that's crazy there.
Yeah.
That's the easy one for everybody to forget. You said you work with the contractors?
So, general contractor. And every subcontractor would have to turn in paperwork to the general contractor. The general contractor did not pay them. Then we would not pay the general contractor until paid.
So he's getting lien waivers from his subs, and then he's coming to you with all his lien.
To close that contract,
Uh-huh.
every single subcontractor's signature stating that these general contractor paid.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Well, it was for the university, so we had to follow.
Yeah.
laws.
Have you dealt with this before with lien
Yeah,
waivers?
I work for several general contractors around here, and that's the way we've operated as well. Is we make sure that our subs sign lien waivers as things progress and as they get signatures. We've never ended up turning those over to our clients, but they would be there if that's what happens.
Yeah.
You know, if that's what they want.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I think it's just good business practices for you to make.
Right. Yeah.
If you don't
So, and what I'm talking about here is asking the GC for all his lien lien waivers. Yeah. So that nobody comes in. But the only thing you have to trust there is that he actually did get all his, because if he's got somebody that he hired that you don't know about, then it'd be easy to kind of let that slip through. But just know that that's not that it's a foolproof method, but if you get lien waivers, then nobody can come after you because they've told you they paid their subs. And if they've got lien waivers from the subs, then they'll be able to show them to you that they've done all that.
Look out for if you're flipping and you're using hard money, most hard money lenders will not release your next draw until all lien
Good
waivers
point.
are signed up.
Good point. Yep.
I think it's a technical lien is not that easy because the one 3 years ago when I had to take out the business in the Hampton because I was a general contractor and he hired a subcontractor. But between general contractor and subcontractor, and like so he hired a subcontractor. And then subcontractor called me and then, hey, you have to pay me like about the 700 or whatever dollar he didn't pay. So I told him, I'll hire you. Told me your general contractor, don't call me. He said, I want to put on the medical lien on the property or whatever. So I went to the lawyer. I looked up the other lawyer, how much they would charge for consultation. So I found $150 lawyer. So I went to his office. He says, a medical lien to file is not that easy.
Right.
He can go just for the medical lien. He said, why? He said, don't worry, just wait. So after that is, I don't know how they, but it's
Yeah.
but I had a lot of contracts. It took me like 7 months to finish the one job.
Yeah.
So,
And that's probably part of why it took so long, because the guy didn't seem like he was doing what he's supposed to be doing. Yeah.
So I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
It seems like anybody, almost anybody can put a mechanical lien on your property because anybody can see this sticker on your window, property, right?
Right.
So you don't have a contractual relationship with your subcontractor. As far as I understand, you only have a contractor with your JC.
Correct.
You don't have any relationship with subcontractors. So how, it seems like anybody can even pretend to be a subcontractor, go and file a mechanical lien. How does it work?
Yeah, they got to prove it. We're getting into an area that I'm not really, and it's complicated because I was reading through it, because I knew that this is the hard part for me in this class because I'm not, because it's confusing. But there's a time limit. There's like 90 days from when he said he started the work. So if he started painting your house on the 1st, he's got 90 days to file that mechanics lien, to put a mechanics lien on your house. So he can't just, look and see who it is and then file a lien. I guess they could, but you would get out of it very easy because one, there's no contract. The guy would have to produce a written contract. Then he would have to prove that he was contracted with you. It's not going to be that easy. That's the reason why they want these written contracts. Work's going to start on this time. We're going to be finished here. These are my payment plans. Da 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 da.
That's right. My question was if you have a contract with the JC, but you don't have any contract with subcontractor.
Correct. He has to go to the contractor, I think, twice to ask for his money. Then he has to notify. He can't just go to the courthouse. He has to notify you twice, and then he can go. So it shouldn't just magically appear on your title. You know what? I'll look at it some more and see if I can't pull that out. But I know it's not a simple process for that guy to do. But there is a way to do it. And just know as a homeowner that those guys can come after you eventually if their boss doesn't pay them. That's kind of the important piece that you need to know there. Yes, sir.
I think that for those who have done rehabs here, it's easy to, honestly, I think you should play like devil's advocate because you have categories of contractors. You have the contractors that you don't have to do any paperwork. I'll give you a good price. Give you a great price. Pay for materials, I'll do labor, pay for my labor. You have guys that pick up your material. You have guys that pick up your material and run off with your material. You have the guys that will do the paperwork and say, listen, you can do the paperwork, this is that. But once you start doing paperwork with contractors, just know that your price is going to get higher. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. Now, if you're trying to, which a lot of us, especially as new investors, try to budget. But when you start dealing with the general contractor is making a phone call, calling somebody that you can call. If you know somebody that does flooring, the general contractor is calling the person that does flooring and charging you, 10, 15% more. So this is a tricky game here. And I think that it's not spoken about, especially I just heard somebody talking about, I love HGTV. This is not HGTV, this is real life. When you're dealing with these contractors, you need to figure out what part you're dealing with and what your budget is. Because when you start dealing with these guys that are going to pull permits, they want you to pull permit, you don't want to pull it, we'll pull it. We're going to charge you more. If we do this, we're going to charge you more. If I'm going to call somebody else, I'm going to charge you more. If you're dealing with this as a new investor, it can get very overwhelming. I'm telling you from personal experience. I'm telling you I know guys that can do flooring, but they're not going to, charge crazy amounts. I know somebody else that will do flooring, they will charge me crazy amounts. Keep this in mind when you're dealing with these contractors, and especially when you're dealing with contractors that say, my guy can pull a permit for you. they can do it, but what's it gonna cost you? If something goes wrong, what's it gonna cost you? What's it gonna cost them? These are things that we don't think about as new investors. I've been through it personally. This is why I'm bringing it up now. Don't let contractors take advantage of you, because contractors are like tenants. They are professional. They are professional tenants that will take you to court and bring you. And the same thing with contractors. So be very careful when you're dealing with these folks, especially general contractors. Because they have general contractor on their name and they have A on their title. They're going to charge you more for the same job that may not be the same as, you know.
Right. The one thing, everything that he said is true. The general contractor, he's doing all the coordination, he's making all the phone calls. It's going to cost you more because he's doing the coordinations, he's managing the project, he's managing the schedule. And if you've got a good guy, he's worth every nickel.
You got a good guy.
If you got a good general contractor, he's worth every nickel. If you get another guy that's not as good and he's just looking at it, well, put it this way, if you got a contractor that says, hey, go pull the permit for me, right there, you need to start thinking about, is this really my best general contractor that I want? Okay. I pulled permits for my own house to, and then hired somebody to do the work. Just know that when the work gets screwed up, the city's not going back after the contractor. The city's coming after you because you're the one that pulled the permit. That's the reason why, if you're doing work and here's another one. I pulled a permit on that house and the house burnt down. The electrician did the work. You can't point your finger at the electrician now because you pulled the permit. Any contractor worth his salt, the good ones, are gonna do that themselves. They're gonna go pull the permit themselves and they're gonna do the work themselves and they're gonna stand behind it. Now, I'm not telling you that you can't. If you know your contractor, you've worked with them a bunch or whatever. Well, let me rephrase this. I'm standing up here telling you how to do it. Don't pull your own permits. Your contractor needs to pull the permit. Just like your general needs to pay his guys, not you.
Some lenders will let you pull your own permit.
Correct. Yep. So if you're there, there's a lot of contractors out there that'll try to make it easy on you, try to make it easy on me. And I'm not telling you don't. Yeah, I am. Don't do that. And that's just not, until you got a lot of experience, don't do that. Because this is the reason all this stuff is in place here, that the states put this stuff in place here, is to protect you. And it's their way of regulating the contractors and protecting the consumer. When you start getting out of that protection realm, you're in your own world. And if something goes sideways, you didn't follow the rules. You didn't do what we asked you to do to protect yourself. For example, you didn't check the insurance. If you didn't check the insurance, or you didn't buy your own insurance for the house and the house burns down, it's going to be a bad mistake. Yes, ma'am.
You have to check the insurance on where I checked out. One person was the home improvement and said they could do my roof. First, I had to put the insurance. They were gonna have somebody else work with them, and I said not if they wasn't on their insurance, so they must have called. They didn't get it done. So later they came back and said this other person had insurance. So I called to verify it. So the insurance company said no, they're not covered for roofing. They're only for the interior work. So now I have another one. So I called to verify this person's insurance. The insurance company kind of gave me a little game. She sent it through the email. They did their process and sent it through the email. And then I said, well, this is also a home improvement company. Does it cover roofing? And she's like, what are you talking about? So when I explained to her, does this cover, this stuff I have on my from that? Then she goes, it's hard to say. I said, huh? What kind of mess is that? How do you mean it's hard to say? You can't tell me if I'm gonna be covered for my roof. I said, okay, don't worry about it. I'll report this back to DPR and hear what they have to say. Because they're the ones who told me to go through this. And she goes, well, what is it, you need roofing? Let me check it out. And then she came back and gave me, my answer that I wanted. But yeah, so now I'm finding out that insurance companies could be a little shady also.
Well, and yeah, and on behalf of the insurance company, though, they don't know all the perils out there. Basically, you want to say, am I covered if they screw up my roof? Like, yep. Do they have liability insurance, and do they have workman's comp to cover their people if one of them falls off the roof? Yeah. So, yeah. I think it's when you start getting into the specifics. Am I covered for, because the lady behind the counter is not going to give you an answer on specific questions. I think.
She was the account manager. She actually said it's hard to say what is covered and what is not because circumstances are different.
Right.
And I already kind of told her what the job was.
Yeah.
Because I saw the certificate and it had the liability, but no working comp wasn't on there. So you still don't know if roofing or something else is covered because on the last one, it was
Yeah.
wasn't. So you still have to call.
If the license and the insurance, if the license name Three Brothers Roofing and the insurance name Three Brothers Roofing, liability, workman's comp, and the W-9 Three Brothers Roofing all match, then you should be as covered as you can be. So, I mean, that's the normal check that contractors make on each other when they're doing that sort of thing. Okay, a couple things that we missed on here. Warranties. Make sure that you got a transferable warranty in there, especially if you're rehabbing a house and you don't have a contractor's license. That's the one thing that Mr. Olson from DPOR is very clear on. You don't necessarily, and I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not telling you how to read the law, but I don't believe you need a contractor's license if you have all your work warranted for a year with a transferable warranty. So any work that your subs do on the house gets transferred to the new owner, so that you don't have buried shit in the walls that messes up your house, that you can't go back and get fixed under the warranty of a house. I did one new home build with a contractor one time, and a year later we had to go in and do some minor warranty work. But they came out, they came and reminded us, okay, we got a couple nail pops here, and we want some some stuff fixed here and there. But just something we had to do it a year. Yes, sir.
So we're pulling permits, going back to what you were saying. Is it a specific type of rehab? Is it full guts, or you got your rehab for under in the 30K your cosmetic rehab for what type of rehab?
Permits are different in each locality, but I would tell you that if you're replacing like for like, one, I'm not a lawyer. Two, look to see what your local jurisdiction says. Generally, if you're replacing like for like, if I'm pulling a toilet and I'm putting a new toilet in, if I'm pulling a bathtub and I'm putting a new bathtub in, like for like, you don't need a permit. Okay? If I'm gutting the bathroom and I'm adding electrical wires, circuits, I'm adding plumbing, I'm moving the tub, I'm adding a sink, I'm pushing it into a closet, those types of things. If you're changing any of the actual configuration, you need a permit. And if you go down and ask at the permit office, they'll tell you need a permit every time. If I'm pulling my kitchen cabinets out and I'm putting new kitchen cabinets in, personally, I don't need a permit. But I'll tell you that every time I do that, I upgrade the wiring or whatever, and I you know, it's probably where permits should start coming in. But you can look that up online to see exactly what they need. Did you have something, Sharon?
Yeah, in relation to the warranties, when you do resell, make sure that the new homeowner knows to transfer any warranties, manufacturer warranties specifically. So like the HVAC unit,
Right.
like Train only allows 30 days for that transfer to happen. If they don't do it within those 30 days, they're out of luck, and that warranty is void. So most of the HVAC companies are the same. So make sure they know to.
And the warranty,
Right.
the manufacturer, I learned this too because I didn't transfer my warranties. Manufacturer's warranty is like 2 years. I'm making up a number here, but it's like 2 years. But if you transfer, the manufacturer's warranty is 5 years for the owner. If you transfer it, if you don't transfer it, they've got a 2-year warranty. So if you call out of the original 2 years, then you won't get the full 5-year warranty. So that's a great. Right. That's why I said I'm not. The numbers are different, but the point is there. You're exactly right. 10-year warranty. If you don't call, their warranty is now reduced to 2, because they'll give you a 2-year warranty. It doesn't matter who calls in, but if you transfer it, you'll get the full warranty. You had something, Phil?
They give you the 2 years if you have the license contract that is telling you the first, if you can prove that.
Right.
If you paid anybody, and even if they were licensed, if you cannot come home with a receipt, they're not gonna give you any warranty.
That's a good point too. Yeah. Yeah. I've had it where I had something break and my HVAC guy said, I don't know who put this in, but it's still under warranty because it was within that first 2 years. They knew it was built within 2 years. So they gave a warranty on that, but they didn't give the full, I didn't get the full, I didn't get the full warranty on it. So I think they covered like the compressor or something on it.
Yeah, and there's also a difference between the equipment warranty for the manufacturer and then the installment, like installation warranty, the labor warranty.
Right.
That's usually only a year.
Right. Right. But good point. Make sure, save all your documentation, tell the people, transfer all these warranties. But that was the big one that Mr. Olson told us, when the Hampton Roads flipping community got all up in arms because we thought we were going to all have to get contractors licenses. And then in the contract, how are we going to resolve disputes? And then there's a right to terminate for breach of contract on both sides. So if you don't pay me, I'm not going to work. And if you don't do the work, I'm not going to pay you. Basically what that says. All right, next one. All right, permits. Hey, let's talk about permits. For most construction activity, when you're constructing, enlarging, altering, it's not required for ordinary repairs. You guys taking off? They live up the road a bit. So not required for ordinary repairs. Why pull them? You pull them because if something goes wrong, you can say you pulled a permit, and the county won't come after you. Who pulls them? Don't pull your own permits. We had this conversation earlier. Let your contractor pull the permit, because if things go sideways, the county's going to go after the contractor. The county's not going to come after you. If you pull the permit, the contractor's kind of like, oh, okay, that's cool. I just do the work. Oh, it ain't right. Oh well. So it can be done. I've done it. I don't advise new guys to do that for sure. Next one. Okay, so the project schedule. This is where we could probably do this in 2 or 3 different ways to go. And I'll probably speed up here. Let me see how many slides have I got left. I got too many. Okay, so project schedule. You need to plan it. You need to demo it. You need to do the rough in. You need to do unfinished surfaces. You need to do finished surfaces. And then your final details. This is how the work is done on a house. You plan it out. You do the demo. You break everything down. You pull all the walls down. You get all the stuff so you can see what you got. I can see the plumbing. I can see the wires. I can see everything. Then I start fixing the plumbing. I start fixing the wires. Everything that's covered up gets fixed. Then we start covering it back up again. And then once we've covered it all back up again, then we start painting it, making it look good. But just know that most of the work happens when you get all the drywall down, and that's where the work happens, because your electrician, your plumbers, all those guys are working. Next one. This is where I'm going to start speeding up there, I think. Payment schedule, limit your deposit at 10% or $1,000. Don't pay too much money because they'll run off with your money. Don't let payments get ahead of your work. We've already talked about that. Don't make final payments until you're totally satisfied. If you give the guy the last check, chances are that's the last time you'll see him. So if you're not totally happy with what you see, don't pay him. Make him come back and fix it. Because even if he says, oh, no problem, I'll come out and get whatever, it's not going to be the time schedule you want it on. The guy's going to get it on a day when he's bored. And if he's a good contractor, he's not bored very often. Never pay cash. Never pay cash. Always have a receipt. Always have a receipt. And keep records. Write everything down when you do it. Next one. Mechanics liens. We already talked about that. Basically, anybody can lien your house. Make sure you're getting your mechanics lien waivers. We did talk about that, so let's go to the next one. Virginia Contractor Recovery Fund. I did say something about this earlier. It's protecting consumers from dishonest contractors. It's not protecting consumers from dishonest people. Did you hear that? If you're hiring an unlicensed contractor, Virginia cannot protect you from them. You can get them in trouble, but you're not going to get your fingers into this recovery fund, of which they can give you up to $20,000 if a contractor screws the stuff up, because they're trying to keep control of the contractors. The fund is entirely supported by assessments on contractors. Next one. Okay, here's your resources. I put this together, and when I put it together, I realized that DPOR put out a document that put all this out into 4 pages that you can read. It was literally, I'm going through it and I'm like, I could have made a slideshow out of this, because this is it was literally the same way I laid it. And thank you very much. My point is, you can get that from DPOR and read it. And there's a lot of resources on the DPOR site. And then your lawyer. Is there anything else on that? You got any deals right now?
Yeah, I've got several lots for builders. I've got one Victorian over in Norfolk.
You did say those. I was sleeping. I'm sorry.
Not ready yet, but we'll be ready in 2 weeks.
You can stop the record on that.
Renovated quad.
Just stop the record and that's it. There you go.